All right, so now that Trae Young and the madness at the Garden is over, the Hawks move on to face the Philadelphia 76ers in a best of 7 series. It's not really the most attractive series, but hey, it's what we got, and we're going to analyze it for you.
All right, I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna be a surprise. I have the Atlanta Hawks in 6.
Oh my
Hear
God.
me out. The first thing I'm gonna say, this right here is gonna be heavily dependent on Trae Young. But off of that fact, the Atlanta Hawks has been 27-11 since Nate McMillan has been named head coach. That would be the second best record in the NBA. That's a 71% winning percentage, only behind the Utah Jazz. They started off terrible, horrible. I believe they started off 14-20, terrible. But ever since then, and I talked about this in a podcast before, they've got a defensive minded coach. One of their biggest problems early in the season was their defense. Now, coming into a season where Joel Embiid might even rest the first game, coming to a season where a series where Joel Embiid might play a little bit gimpy throughout the series. I wouldn't be too surprised if the Atlanta Hawks catch him off guard, especially because they've been so hot coming into the playoffs. Trae Young himself, again, a lot of the series is going to be dependent on Trae Young. How well is he going to be? Is Trae Young going to actually show up? We understand what he did in New York. He was a little bit cold at the end of the series, but we understand overall he was still absolutely phenomenal. Is he going to continue being that? One of the big problems that I do have with the Atlanta Hawks is that in the series versus the New York Knicks, they were very one-sided. Trae Young averaged what, about 30 points per game? Oh, well, specifically, he averaged 29 points per game. The second best scorer, the second highest scorer was Bogdanovich at 14. The other one was 12. I personally believe that one of them needs to be up in the 20 points per game range, and I personally believe it has to be a play like John Collins. John Collins, before this year, was an exceptional power forward, absolutely elite scoring wise. I personally think that he has the potential to actually be back up there. Honestly, in a series like this, where Joel Embiid is going to be out, they're not necessarily going to have the best paint presence because obviously Joel Embiid, while he's going to be hindered, while he's going to be gimpy, he's probably not going to necessarily put 100% effort on the defensive end. I think John Collins could actually take advantage of that. I would not be surprised at all if the Hawks get the 76ers up out of here very, very quickly, dog. I'm telling you.
So I think we have the Hawks rated a little too high. Now, don't get me wrong; they played a great series against New York, but that series should have been a lot closer than what it was, simply off the fact that the Knicks' best player forgot how to play basketball during the most important time when it's time to play basketball. I'm talking about Julius Randle. He had a historically bad run, so you can't really judge the Hawks based off of that series. Now, the thing about Philadelphia is they are very reliant on Joel Embiid. Yes, they have Ben Simmons. Yes, they have Tobias. They have a Curry brother. They have Danny Green. They have some guys. But at the end of the day, the team goes as Joel goes. And Rob, you're not wrong, man. If Joel Embiid isn't playing or if he isn't healthy or 100%, the Hawks can definitely give them a problem. Now, how much of Trae Young's success depends on how really good of a defender that Ben Simmons decides to be this series. If Ben Simmons can somehow, some way slow down Trae Young as well as chip in a little bit more with the scoring, then Philly stands a better chance. But without Joel Embiid or hurt Joel Embiid, I mean, it could really go either way, and I think it'll go in 6 games. It'll go that'll be the turning factor because I know we just got fans back, but this Atlanta Hawks home crowd, I've never seen the Atlanta Hawks home crowd like this before. They genuinely have a home crowd now, so I think it's gonna be a close to call. But if Joel Embiid is hurt again, like I said, I can see the Hawks taking it in 6, man. I don't think this series goes to 7 for either team though.
I don't know, man. I think I'm seeing this series through different lenses or something, but I think the 76ers sweep these guys. And I don't see them having a problem doing it. In fact, I don't see Trae Young scoring more than 30 points a game in this whole series. I see him getting clamped up and sent right to the bench. I see the 76ers coming out and making a statement. They're punching their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals. With or without Joel Embiid, I feel like the 76ers should be able to sweep the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, I said it. That's because they are more well-rounded than you think. I know Joel Embiid is their offensive leader. He's the guy who holds it down for them. He puts up 28 in the regular season. But so far in this last series, I know they played the Wizards, but Tobias Harris was averaging 25 a game. I feel like that's all they need to beat this Atlanta Hawks team. I'm downplaying the Atlanta Hawks that bad. I really feel like they're not that good. They went up against a team who didn't have a star player. Like Tyler said, he just forgot how to play basketball. It's like he touched the basketball from Space Jam and all his powers went away. Julius Randle was terrible. And the Hawks, I feel like the chatter at the Garden got into Trae Young's head, so he thinks he's a lot better than he is. I feel like he thinks he's the second coming of Steph Curry or something, but that's not the case.
Youngblood, I'm gonna tell you right now. I don't know if you heard what I said earlier on, but for the last 38 games of the season, they have the second best record in the league. They have been absolutely hot throughout the past season. To come into the playoffs, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This was the most underrated team we've ever seen thus far, possibly in the last decade. These guys have been absolutely insane. They have a number one scorer. They have a very good defensive presence. A number two possibly isn't necessarily named yet, but they have a very good coach. I personally believe, real quick, they could definitely get the 76ers up out of the water extremely quickly. I was being generous by saying 6 or 7 games. They might actually clear them. I'm not going to say sweep them. I think that's going to be very difficult to do because, of course, Ben Simmons might have something to say about that, and especially with all the criticism he's been running into very recently. I personally believe he himself could possibly earn them a game himself. But I'm not going to lie to you. Shutting down Trae Young is probably going to be damn near impossible because he's already coming into the game with a solid 15 points minimum because he's going to get 15 free throws. And I think, obviously, his three-point ability is probably going to be up there as well. So he's probably going to average a solid, let's be light, 25 points per game, a light 25 points per game. It's all going to be predicated about the other characters. How is John Collins going to do? How is Bogdanovich going to do? How is Clint Capella going to do? How is he going to control and deal with Joel Embiid in the paint?
Glad you bring that up because down the stretch of the season, late April, early May, the 76ers and the Hawks had a back-to-back. Granted, in one of those, Trae Young didn't play. But I'm just going to give you the scores for this game, for these two games. It goes 127 to 83, 126 to 104. The 76ers won both of the games, and I see it getting worse.
Well, let me ask you a question. In which one of those games was Joel Embiid 100% healthy? Both.
Neither of them.
Whoa. So Joel Embiid
Neither
in
of
both
them.
those games. Whoa. So what was the problem with Joel Embiid in those games?
In one of the games, Joel Embiid, 7 for 16, 17 points. He didn't have to be healthy. And then the other game, if I'm not mistaken, Dwight Howard was the leading scorer. I don't think Joel Embiid is. If he's healthy, then they win in 3. If he's not healthy, they win in 4. That's how I'll leave it.
Well, bro, I'm gonna tell you right now. The last time Joel Embiid had the same injury that he has right now, which is a partially torn MCL, he basically missed 8 games and was declared out for the rest of the season. I personally don't think that he'll probably be back in game one. He'll probably try to go in game 2, man, because he understands that they could possibly go down 0-2 at home, but he's probably not necessarily going to give you the same production as the MVP Joel Embiid that we have grown to know and love this season. I don't think he's going to be 100% there, and Clint Capella is not necessarily going to let him be that guy. I obviously Clint Capella is definitely a very good defender, and seeing injured Joel Embiid like he will be is going to be absolutely food to him. And on a defensive end for Joel Embiid, it's going to be absolutely crazy. John Collins is probably going to torch that young man. That's personally just how I have it.
John Collins is a big question mark himself. Let's not just call that a done deal. I just think based off the momentum that we have going on, not for nothing, Washington kind of derailed Philly as far as playing down to their competition. I mean, if they really wanted to, they could have got Washington out of there in 4 games. But the Atlanta Hawks, man, they're hot right now. They got a hot hand, a hot team. That's the only reason I say that they have a solid chance. And that's why I also say that it's not going to go 7 games this series.
It's really going to all be predicated, in my opinion, about Joel Embiid. How healthy is Joel Embiid? I think if Joel Embiid was coming into the series 100% healthy, I'd probably have the Philadelphia 76ers in 7 because he's not going to be 100% healthy and because he's probably going to miss a couple games or at least one, in my opinion. I personally believe that they're probably going to lose the series in about 6 or 7 games. That's just how I'm coming.
We can go back and forth and give our takes all day, but you guys should definitely leave a comment down below and let us know who you think is going to win this series and why.